What's up, everybody? We got some movement in the charts. We're going to be pushing this live here in about 2 seconds. I just need to do my job of retweeting this over here on the Academy BitLab to make sure that everybody possible can see what's going on. Matthew Hyland and myself about to break down a key level that we've been waiting on for quite some time and what this means for markets if we're absolutely able to push through this and break higher. This may be the shift that we've all been waiting for. So with that being said, let me go ahead, retweet, copy post, live now, retweet. For chance to win and to stay on top of the market signals. Boom, boom, boom. Retweeted. I think it's good to go. Let's go ahead and dive into this sucker. We're just going to dive in. We don't need all the intro nonsense. Mr. Matthew Hyland, what's up? We're coming to everybody live. He just messaged me. Yo, live now? Yeah, let's go live now. What's going on with these markets, dude? You're muted, man. Why are you muted? Now you're not.
Okay, there we go. So Bitcoin is close to putting in its first macro higher high for the first time in ended up saying the first sign that this is now a lower or a higher low would be that we have broken out of this 65K area and established a higher high. This would be super significant. It's almost like you cannot understate the significance of it if it's able to do that. We've just been making lower highs this whole way down, which I'll draw them out. We had a lower high here, lower high here. This whole area was another lower high, a lower high, and then this last lower high back at the end of August. So if we were to make a higher high, it's a change in the trend. This is a downtrend. This is an intermediate downtrend and a macro uptrend, but this downtrend that's been going on for 6 months now would then this would be the first sign that this downtrend is coming to an end. Then we would like to see another higher low after that. So it would look something like this if it were to do something like this where we break above this, get a higher high first, and then we know that this low back here was higher than this previous low, so that makes this a higher low. So then when we get the next pullback, we just don't want to see it go below this 52.5 level. Wherever it pulls back to, it's fine, and then eventually that's how you change the direction of a trend. This is how we would know that this trend is pretty much over with, this downtrend's over with, and that the market wants to continue up. And if you look across the board too, a lot of the assets are in similar positions right now. If we look at Ethereum essentially has seen the same thing where it's been lower highs for a while, basically since June. This was a lower high here. This was a lower high. So now for Ethereum, you'd want to see Ethereum get above this 2800 level, which served as support multiple times back here. And now it was the previous high back in August. So if Ethereum can break through this 2800 level, it would be quite significant. And now if we go to others, which is the alt outside the top 10, this is the wrong one. This is the right one right here. So it's also in the same exact position where it's close to making a higher high. We have seen lower highs this whole way down, lower highs, lower highs, lower highs, and then this lower high back in August. But if we can make a higher high, so if you look across the board, we have a potential scenario where Bitcoin can make a higher high for the first time in 6 months. Ethereum can make a higher high for the first time in 6 months. The altcoin market can make a higher high for the first time in 6 months. So this is a very pivotal moment for the entire market. There's nothing you can't understate it. You can't act like it's not significant. It is very significant for this whole market. This could be the turning of a corner. Historically, as we have gone into election years, we've typically seen the same type of structure typically every year or every single election cycle where we had the bottom in August, which we saw, and then we slowly have moved up. I drew this line about a month or so ago, and it's pretty much followed it. But the next step is getting above this and making this higher high. So we are very, very close, as you can see. And it would be pretty cool if we were actually to break 65K on this live stream. Hopefully that happens. We'll see. I think you're currently muted, Kelly. I hear something for a second.
Hear me now? Check, check. Okay, you're just gonna have
Yeah,
to use my AirPod. I don't know what's going on with. I just did a impromptu setup. I don't. You can tell I'm on my face cam here.
yeah,
I don't have my cable from all my setup from Singapore. But I want to shout
yeah,
out Matthew for us doing this live stream. Everybody tuned in. We may be doing. We're gonna be doing a lot more live streams in the evening as well. But I want to call everybody, if you're watching live right now, retweet the over on Twitter, retweet the live stream. Matthew, let your people know. Retweet
yeah,
on your
yeah. I'm
stream. Let
working on it
people
right
know
now.
we're live. We'll be talking a bit here, talking about what's going on these charts, on the markets, why these levels are so important, as he just outlined. We'll be going over it again and again. But we
Yeah.
got some beautiful things in the charts right now. So with that being said, let's continue on looking at these charts.
Yep. So, like I said, with Bitcoin, it's the setup is there. If we can get this first higher high, it just this whole market will turn pretty fast, in my opinion. If we do get that, and it's just at this point we're super close. Hopefully, it happens. And just across the board, it's just looking like the market wants this to take place, but we will see. And it would just be like right on time with the election historically. Uh, what we've seen in the past. And even if you look at the S&P 500 as well, it also has broken to new highs. And typically, in election years, you don't see this. At least the last 3 elections, we haven't seen this until after the election. So the stock market is actually even moving a little bit faster as well. So that might also help Bitcoin and crypto get over this hump a little bit sooner, if that makes sense.
For sure, dude. And like,
Mhm.
one of the things I've been sharing on my charts, I have a whole different thing here. I think this is mine.
Yep.
Yeah, here we go. Uh, I drew this quite a while ago, but price action potentially pushing up into the zone, and we can still get a final washout down to the downside. But I'm feeling less and less like that's going to happen because of the bullishness coming in. We're seeing we saw today all the information about China cutting their rates, pumping 500 billion yuan
Yep.
back into the market. But this bar right here, I think, is the most important. This little square that seems arbitrary, I've had this on the chart and these measurements for, I mean, since April 19th on the halving. I talked about roughly 160 to 170 days post halving is where I was looking for a likely breakout to the upside. And we just entered this box, which was coming into the FOMC, the pre-run on that September 15th, into somewhere about basically the middle end of October. Remember, October tends to be very bullish. We just entered this time block where I was talking about, hey man, we might get some bullishness. And what are we seeing? We're seeing bullishness pump right into this. And it's not just Bitcoin, man. We're seeing things in the
Mm.
market rip. And that's why I've been back in here. I've been in here trading. I've been in and out of trades all evening. I got stopped out in profit a little bit ago. I've done 3 trades today. I re-entered. I have a tight stop loss right here, basically at this little range right in the zone. If this comes down and gets stopped out, doesn't matter to me because we are about to enter that super bowl territory, and I want to ride these moves as they happen.
No, yeah, definitely, and we're seeing a lot of altcoins having pretty decent setups over the past few weeks. Um, there's just been so many that have gone, and we've discussed a lot of them on your live streams in the past. Uh, Coins such as like Fed, Sui,
Dude,
Tau,
did you see Tao? Tao, while we were in Singapore, went from like 3 something up to almost $600.
and I can show you why that happened. So if you go to Tau BTC, and I showed this to my Patreons prior to it breaking out. So just a few days ago, right? Tau was below this. If you look on this weekly time frame, right? This was an area of resistance. This was support back here, then resistance, resistance. So then this was only about, let's see, what day was this? Um, last Thursday. Today's what, Tuesday? So 5 days ago, Tau got above this resistance, and that was the go sign. Like that was when I was telling my Patreons personally that yeah, Tau has broken out against Bitcoin. So a lot of these setups have been actually more evident in the Bitcoin chart. If you look at a lot of these USD charts, usually the breakouts have been occurring afterwards. But like this chart against Bitcoin was crystal clear. This was significant support and resistance, and then right here on this daily candle close, right there, we had the close above, and then it just ripped upward. And we could also you see the same thing also in SUI, which is another coin. Um, I had discussed privately with my patrons as well, where this was a Sui got above this, and this was the first higher high. And at this point, right, Sui was only around 90 cents. This was only about less than 2 weeks ago, or around 2 weeks ago. So on the USD chart, this was not a higher high yet, which I could show you. Let me just load it up. I could load this. So for Sui at this point, it was on, like this was the high right here. So while against Bitcoin, it was making a higher high, it wasn't a higher high against USD yet. So the Bitcoin chart was more telling. The Bitcoin chart, we saw the higher high, while the USD chart, we didn't see the higher high yet. But then it continued to follow through. Just obviously after once it made the higher high, that was a confirmed breakout, and then it continued up, and then we saw the USD chart follow. So a lot of these coins are breaking out against Bitcoin first. The more significant charts are their comparison against the Bitcoin pair rather than the USD pair, and it's been like that for a bunch of coins. There's been at least a dozen of them that we've caught the breakouts of based on the Bitcoin pair, not the USD pair.
Yeah, no, I mean, you were
Yeah,
showing Sui here on the BitLab channel about 2 weeks ago, and it was setting
yeah,
up before all this. Everybody
yeah.
wants their no. Most people that struggle making money in this market, they jump into green candles as they're happening, and then they wonder why they get wrecked. And as you were outlining, you were outlining the setup before it took place, and it takes courage. It does. I mean, look at that inverted head and shoulders on Fetch.
This is
I mean,
Fed.
you
Yeah,
were
this is Fed.
outlining that for 2 weeks before all this happened.
Yeah, that was actually on the USD pair. I was outlining it actually before we even had this right shoulder form, because it looked like it was forming a inverse head and shoulders. But this is actually the Bitcoin pair. So the Bitcoin pair, I believe, broke out first, and now the USD pair is kind of following. So again, with all these coins, the Bitcoin pairs are more. There's more data in the Bitcoin pair. If we go to FET USD, it's also broken out, but it broke out against Bitcoin sooner, I believe. If you look at this, but it almost looks identical. This looks like a clean inverse head and shoulders. We saw this kind of retest of the breakout right here, and now really like for FET, the price target of this breakout would come, I believe, around all time highs. It would be, if you measure this like this, it'd be almost up to $3. So yeah, there's a lot of action going on across the market. You're seeing the alts pump. There's a chart. Let me see if I could. This is an interesting chart that I kind of came up with. It's others divided by Bitcoin and Ethereum. So this is low cap alts against Bitcoin and Ethereum, and it's basically at its low essentially. And this was the high from back in January, um, in December and February, March. So we're still just like if you compare the low cap altcoins compared to Bitcoin and Ethereum, they have a lot of potential upside. And in my opinion, right, if we look at this if we ever were to break above, especially like this level right here, this would be where we got to in January, March for alts. This would be super significant. I think the alts would see the start of a major, major run at that point. There's still a lot of work to do. We're still basically essentially at the low. So we haven't really, even though a lot of alts are starting to go up, we actually haven't seen too much yet. This run from last year that started around in June and ran from June to January and March. We saw this run of lower cap alts against Bitcoin outperforming Bitcoin and Ethereum. So if we're going to see that again, we're just at the very, very start of it if it's going to take place. And then overall, this was the high from back in January of 2022. So this was basically the end of the cycle last time. And this was also from the cycle top back in 2017, back here. So it has a lot of potential upside. And if we have, like I said, if we ever got through this area, then I think the alts would be face melting. We'll see just major upside,
I mean,
especially
yeah, I
before
mean,
the
a
yeah
lot of things are looking great. I mean, pull up Ondo. Ondo had a bit of a double bottom,
yeah.
and it's pushing up into a known zone that I've had outlined for some time, which is this one right here. We can see on my chart, and I talked about it on today's show. This chop zone. Look, price action pushing right, and we can move this over, pushing right into this. And not only that, if we extend this out, look at where the price is right now. It's if we can clear this, I expect this will likely push somewhere up a little bit higher up here into the basically testing the dollar region. If we can clear these lows, then we're starting to get the, I don't want to say clearance. It's like you have an air traffic controller says, hey man, you're cleared for takeoff once you clear some certain zones on the runway, and then you just rip.
But the interesting thing is, if you look at, so I've been watching this as well against the Bitcoin pair, and it actually is broken out against Bitcoin. Like I've been saying, a lot of these pairs are breaking out against Bitcoin first, and then you're seeing the follow through with the USD. So right here, if we go down to the daily time frame, this was resistance, and it has broken through this over the past 2 days. So I would say at this point, if you look at this objectively, this looks like a double bottom right here, and this was the neckline, and it's broken the neckline. So Ondo has a good chance of continuing higher, and now we're seeing it with the USD pair. So it's the same story across the board. Pretty much any coin they're breaking out against Bitcoin first. So just keep an eye on the Bitcoin pairs and identify resistance. And if it breaks through that resistance, like here, this is easy to identify. This resistance right here. This was the high from back in a few weeks ago. It's broken through it. That's quite significant. And if I were to look at this on the weekly time frame, it really it could run pretty hard because there's not much overall. I'd say resistance until this level up here, which is about that's like a 25% move against Bitcoin, give or take.
No, 100%. Uh,
Yep.
how is how's Chainlink looking? I haven't looked at the Bitcoin chart, but I do know on the US dollar chart, it's pushing up right against this sort of descending falling wedge sort of line of resistance and the previous range low. W formation. I mean, this is what I'm looking at, and we'll jump to your chart.
Yep.
I mean, this is on the 3-day chart. I mean, just ping ponging back and forth, large washout, and then look at the candle bodies on the 3-day chart, all holding this base, pushing right up into this previous range low. If we can clear this, it might be looking good. What are you seeing?
So if we look at this against Bitcoin, it's basically right against the resistance. It's basically testing it. So if we get a weekly close above this level for Chainlink against Bitcoin, this will probably start to move up. I'd say it has the next resistance would be up in this area, and then there'd be more resistance up here. But it's again, like I said, the USG chart has a little bit more work to do, but the Bitcoin chart right here, it's right there. It's against that resistance. If it can break this right here, it's going to go higher. It's going to probably push up to this level up here. So it's the same
Yeah, I
story
mean,
for all the coins. The Bitcoin charts are showing more, which is good because you want to see your altcoin outperform Bitcoin. If Bitcoin's going up, then that means it's going to be going up even greater against USD. So
no, I mean, of course. I mean, so many things are starting to look good. It's kind of it gives me a little bit of caution because, like, pull up the near chart. Near chart also broke out on the 3-day, broke out of the descending level of resistance, along with a lot of the altcoins. You know, a lot of coins are starting to show signs of strength, but it makes me a little cautious about a potential sort of washout because things are getting a little exuberant. It's feeling good.
and this is near Bitcoin. And what do you see? It broke out against Bitcoin as well, right there. This was the breakout. So all these, all these coins, all these alts. But I would say my argument would be, we did have the washout. We went up in August, toward the end of August, and then we had that washout again early September. I think that was the washout, and because at some point when the market does decide to go up, it's just going to go straight up, and it's one of those rare times where it doesn't I'm not saying that we won't see any sort of pullback, but at some point we're going to see like just the face melting, straight move up. That happens usually, once every 4 years at some point where it lasts a few months, and most of the time, typically we get the move up and then we get the big, the pullback, the down move. But once when we get into that period, and historically we're about at that time where it's more likely to happen. Uh, Let me see if I can find the proper Bitcoin chart. I think it's this one. I just need one with all the price history. So if you just look, this is more for Bitcoin, but a lot of the alts will probably end up following. If you look at these election, let me go to the monthly time frame actually. If we go back to the elections, this was a 2012 election. 2 months after, we just went straight up. 2016 election just continued up after. 2020 election, that we were actually kind of like in the middle of it at that point, just going straight up. And now we're basically about to get to that point where we just go straight up. So we're at like that point, I'd say, historically, where we just go straight up. So the probability of us being in that period once again is a lot higher than it was back in September, July, or earlier this year, like March, or those months when we did go up. But it wasn't at that proper time historically. Like right now, we're basically this is the window historically, and it speaks for itself. This is just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 straight green monthly candles. This run in 2017 was just insane. I'm not sure how many people were around back then, but it was like, it's hard to explain if you weren't around, but it was something that was just, it was just almost a year-long bull market of just straight upside, and every pullback just kept getting eaten up. And then the last cycle, we kind of had a weaker, I'd say, bull market for various reasons, but we did have this point where we just went straight up for about 6 months. So we're close, in my opinion, just based on history. And that's usually history doesn't repeat, but it does tend to rhyme. So I think we're very close. This is a time that I'd say this is a time where you want to really, really focus and hone in and pay attention. And, you only get this opportunity for the most part once every 4 years. And once when it ends, and then you have to wait again. But I think we're just very close at this point.
Oh, I mean, I agree. It's that time in the market where it's incredibly important to understand what part of the market cycle we're in, because if you're trying to short
Yeah.
every move, you're getting to that part where you're going to lose more often than win. It's right now. It really is more than ever. It's time to find longs. And unless you're a professional trader, I would say this is not a shorter's market any longer. Look for your
Mm.
longs. I mean, even on this trade that I had that I was just showing with you all, that
Yeah.
I've got going on CoinW, I told you I have my stop loss right in this zone, and I did move it. The reason I moved it was because I saw this moving average right here coming up. So you can see I moved my stop loss right to that moving average, just below it, and the price action bounced above it. Now, if this does start moving up here, I'm going to move my stop loss up into basically parity here with my entry, and then start moving it up along as it goes. But I'm curious, other than Bitcoin, Ethereum, we talked about some other alts. Do you have any? Again, everybody tuned in right now, thank you for being here. We got 823 people tuned in between Twitter and YouTube. Shout out if you are here. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button if you like these evening streams. But we're talking about all kind of different stuff. So if we talk about micro caps, remember, none of this is financial advice. This is strategy advice, and we have some of the things we prefer, and some things are good, some things are bad. Do you have any smaller cap coins that you're looking at, or you've had on your radar that you're excited about potentially showing some big gains?
I
How I'm
had
still
I
on my
had
screen.
I had one recently that over the last few days it jumped 100%. But I don't. The thing is, I don't want. It's too small of a market cap, I'd say, to really discuss it. But there are coins. Let me see if I can find one. Let me go. I'll show a setup that I posted on my Patreon first. They were able to enter at the right time, but I'll show you guys. I had posted about it on Twitter, like Blur. This is against Bitcoin, right? So when it broke through this area, I entered a long. It was just a spot long, but the stop loss is pretty easy. It's just below the neckline, because once we break out of an inverse head and shoulders, it's usually a pretty strong pattern. But for me, the stop loss area would be right below this. So I entered around here. And Blur, if you measure this out, it would have a lot more upside to go. And this is a typical, if there was ever like an inverse head and shoulders pattern that looks picture perfect, this was it. It broke out, and then usually you see a retest of the breakout, and we just got the retest of the breakout. And now we're seeing it push up. So the price target would be a lot higher across the board for that one. But you could, I feel like it's almost at the point now with a lot of these alts where you could start throwing darts. I think like you're just seeing a lot of things go up across the board. There's just so much stuff starting to move up, and we haven't seen this. I'd say we have not seen this really since back in March or February when things were really hot. So I think that's a sign. And the other thing too, I noticed, if we go to Bitcoin, let me go to like the 1 hour. We're just seeing these dips get bought up. Like earlier today, we had a dip down to this 62.6K area, and then immediately it got bought up and we pushed higher. And this was actually, I'm watching this area right here around 62.5K. As long as it holds this, and I think it's going to want to break this 65K resistance. If it can't hold this, and it's possible you see a retest down to this support down here around 61.3, and then maybe we go up and break out. Bitcoin is kind of pushing up right here. If we look at this 1 hour candle, it would be cool if we can get this breakout on the live stream. We're so close now.
Yeah, I threw a poll in there. I said, do you think, what did I say? I said, will we break 65K key resistance today? Yes, launch baby. It's just teasing us. It's going to reject back down, or no idea. Teach me. Everybody, if you're here on the YouTube, make sure you're engaged with that poll. Let us know what you're thinking. Coming live to you while the market's moving. We want to do this as often as possible. It started getting exciting. We want to make sure you're on the right side of these trends, baby. I do want to just pause for a second. Liz Mikic said, is there any news fueling this liftoff, or is this just technicals? I could say it's both. I do want to throw this back over to this right here. I covered this on this morning's stream. China announced that they're doing multiple rate cuts just after the Fed cut rates. They're also, I said this at the beginning of the stream, they also announced that they're doing about a $500 billion essentially liquidity injection, 500 billion, not dollar, yuan, I apologize. And this is perfectly in line, and I've been talking about this for some time. This is from Quentin, a chart that a lot of people follow. This is just a suggested sort of analog of this, the cycles in liquidity. And the reason why this is important, if you want the markets to go up, it's much like if you want the fuel to get hotter, you can throw gas on the fire. These sort of oscillations are the idea of how liquidity rolls in China. And remember, China is one of the major players on the economic landscape, a global economic landscape. The red here is the actual representation of what that liquidity is doing. And look at what we're doing right here. We've had this uptick. This does not even include the rate cut that just happened, as well as the liquidity injection. And so all of this, coupled with the different discussions we're seeing on a daily basis in the conversations in Congress, and them jumping down Gary Gensler's throat finally, and the economic landscape.
I retweeted that video. If you go to my Twitter, you should play it. It's like about 2 minutes long. I quote tweeted it. He was asked a question essentially about whether a baseball ticket is a security or not. He looked like a complete fool, because it obviously isn't. So therefore, the NFT that gives you access to an event isn't either. But he did not answer the question.
All right, so here it is. This is in regards to Yankees tickets versus Bitcoin or crypto in general. This is important because terminology and how these things are being discussed, and why Bitcoin and crypto is being persecuted in the way it is. And the reason I say persecuted is because of this right here. It's about 2 minutes. I'm going to put it on 1.5x speed just to make it go more quick. But here you go. This was earlier today, I believe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Gensler, suppose I were to sell you a Yankee ticket and tell you that the Yankee ticket could appreciate in value.
Throw the video on this.
It could be resold at a profit in the secondary market.
Oh, my bad.
And as is the case with all sports. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Gensler, suppose I were to sell you a Yankee ticket and tell you that the Yankee ticket could appreciate in value and could be resold at a profit in the secondary market. And as is the case with all sports tickets, suppose the proceeds from the sale of the Yankee ticket goes toward paying for the Yankee game. By selling you the Yankee ticket, am I entering into an investment contract with you and therefore conducting an unregistered security offering?
I appreciate the question. I don't know all the facts and circumstances, but I don't think so. I know where we're headed here, Representative, but I don't think so in that Yankee.
So a Yankee ticket is not, and why is a Yankee ticket not a security?
Well, it's really a question, and the courts have been clear on this, is the offer and sale.
Specifically with a Yankee ticket, though. When you're buying a Yankee ticket, what are you purchasing?
You're buying
access to a Yankee game. Is that fair to say?
I understand. It's been a while since I went to a Yankee game, but that's...
You're welcome to a Yankee game.
I used to live in New York, and my three daughters were all born
in New York.
In the Stoner Cats case, the creators were selling an NFT that offered access to an animated web series. From the standpoint of federal securities law, is there a legal difference between buying a Yankee ticket that offers you the experience of a Yankee game and buying an NFT that offers you the experience of an animated web series?
Again, I don't want to comment on any one specific...
Well, it was a settlement. It's a fait accompli. It's not an ongoing litigation. You can comment on it.
But it's about how is something offered and sold. Is it offered and sold as an investment contract? Are individuals looking to a common enterprise anticipating profits based on the efforts?
Well, I'm familiar with the definition. You're avoiding the question.
I mean, that's it's in a nutshell.
Yeah, and he knew that he was basically caught, like checkmated right there. He couldn't answer the question. If you look at his body language, he was consistently looking down. He knew he was in the wrong. And it's just insane that he's taken this stance against like the NFTs recently, a lot of crypto. But then when you look at something like a Yankee ticket or any sort of sports collectible or Pokemon cards, or whatever, they're not securities, but the way he views crypto is they would be securities. So why, where's the difference? But he can't answer it because there is no difference. So I mean, it's just insane. Like I've said for a while, if he gets fired, then I think the market's going to love it. Absolutely. But
I mean, I agree wholeheartedly. I think we're starting to turn the corner. There's enough people within the House of Representatives and Congress that are starting to get more and more aware of a couple things. One, that this is not some gambling, Pokemon, the Dutch orchards, like a lot of people have said initially, like it's some money grab. We have the biggest banking institutions in the history of the world that are involved with this now. Financial asset managers like BlackRock and Fidelity, Van Eck, the list goes on. And then the number of participants in that, from institutions to big money players. And also the fact that this is such a large block of people in the U.S. alone, that it's important that you get it right because it can mess up your voter base. And so there's a number of things that are all leaning towards meaningful education and people actually ambitiously looking into this, not just buying into this bullshit nonsense that Elizabeth Warren and her goons, who are bought and paid for by Citibank and other nonsense, they go out there and just throw eggs at something they don't understand, which is why I hope that John Deaton absolutely displaces her. I don't want to make this a political thing, but crypto, and actually let's take crypto out, freedom and the freedom of investment should not be something that's politicized at all. It's stupid that this is even part of the election cycle. Everybody on both sides should be, yeah.
And they allowed sports gambling now. So if sports gambling is allowed, then what's wrong with buying crypto tokens? At least, like sports gambling, at the end of the day, you're almost guaranteed to lose. Most, like 90% of people are going to end up losing.
Yeah.
So that's allowed, but then buying crypto tokens that have at least something beneath it, it's kind of just, I don't know, it's crazy.
So let's jump back into some charts because we could talk all this nonsense and context, but let's look at a couple more charts. Why don't you pull up Avalanche? Also looking nice. How is that looking against Bitcoin? How's that looking on the charts themselves?
Let me see. AVAX, BTC. So
man, look at that bottom formation, man. This is all looking so damn sexy to me as an analyst.
So this also looks good, like everything else. This was resistance back here. And then for the last few weeks, it's been getting rejected or hasn't been able to break out. But then on this weekly close, it broke out. And now we're seeing upside this week on this. So it could probably run up to this range if it wants to continue up. So how about we have some of the audience post some coins and I'll compare them to Bitcoin and we'll see what they look like.
Yeah,
If anyone
everybody in
has,
the live chat, throw in a couple coins you want to look at. I want to pull up one of my favorite microcaps as well that I've been talking about for some time. And I honestly, I mean this. I'm partners with this coin, but it has nothing to do with why I bring it up. I'm invested in it, and I've been watching this for some time. So when they asked, when they wanted to partner up, I said, hell yeah, I'll partner because they're doing some kick-ass stuff. But that is Constellation DAG. Looking at Constellation DAG here on the Bitcoin chart, it is obviously had everything has been bleeding against Bitcoin, but this is what I like to see. We have a higher low here, boom. And then we also have this this is on the daily chart. We have a bit of essentially a kind of a double bottom here. And we're starting to break out of this zone right here, or at least testing it. And this is against Bitcoin. If we look at DAG as it compares to the US dollar, this is broken kind of below this falling wedge, came back inside it, formed a double bottom, created a nice base here, and we have this nice breakout to the upside that is broken beyond this range. It's kind of being sucked right back into it at the moment. But once this starts moving, and the number of partnerships they have is what really, it's a smaller cap coin, but considering that it's partnered with the Department of Defense, it's not something that's new. It's only coming onto retail's awareness here in the last a couple months, but they've been working with the DoD, with the U.S. Air Force, with the U.S. Space Force. They have partnerships with IBM and Panasonic, Microsoft. They're doing some incredible things. So, considering that even from this zone right here where it pushed up, hold on a second, boom, let me get my measurement tool. It's up 47%, but considering this on, let's say, the weekly time frame, double click on this, even getting back, even from where it's at now to this previous range high, that's another 200%. And they just had the hackathon with over 700 participants building. Hackathon doesn't necessarily mean, hey, come and try and find bugs. Their hackathon was a development-a-thon, if you think about it that way. And they were basically had 700 different developers creating different metagraphs and use cases and applications to utilize what's going on with their directed acyclic graphs. But so this is looking very, very good to me. I'm very excited about this one. It's a smaller percentage position in my portfolio, and that's because it's a micro cap. You don't need to have 40% of your position in something this small, because if this does start to run, it's small enough that it can eat up a huge portion of your portfolio very quickly. So I'm very excited about this one. Now let's go ahead and see. Kelly gives DAG a hard sell. I do, because I like it. And again, you know what I mean? We got to make sure that if I'm invested in something, I want to let you guys know what's going on with it. If I believe in it, I want you guys. I want it on y'all's radar. What else we got? Tia, says Matthew Verby.
I have I just loaded up Cody. Someone was requesting Cody. So this actually looks pretty good actually. This is I'm not sure, I've never heard of the coin, or I think I've heard it. I just don't know too much about it. But regardless, this looks like
it's
a
in
double
the
bottom.
Cardano ecosystem.
Okay, that makes sense then. So this is a double bottom against Bitcoin. This is on the weekly time frame, and we're seeing if it can get through this, right? Let me zoom in. It closed slightly below this resistance on the last weekly close, but it's currently above this. So I'd say if you're in this coin, watch this, and if it closes above this against Bitcoin, that's a very good sign. The next resistance would really probably come at this area right here. Let me draw this out. And then from there, it does have a lot of potential upside. It's definitely an interesting chart, I'd say. But if it can close above this, it would probably more likely than not run to this next level up here. And then we'll see what happens when it gets up there, if it wants to go higher. So now let me go to TIA USD.
And after that, we'll do Caspa and then Bonk.
Yeah, I was trying to load up Caspa before, but for some reason I couldn't. Let me look on let me go down to like a 3-day time frame. So this is essentially, if it can get through this resistance right here against Bitcoin, this would be a breakout. You'd want to see it get through here. It looks like it tested up to this, but it got rejected so far over the last few days. But we'll see if it breaks out. If this breaks out, this would be a really good sign for TIA, in my opinion. The next resistance would probably come up around here. So this is definitely something to watch. The initial entry back here, I had seen this, but I didn't really get it out in time to my Patreons. But when it broke back above this area, this was resistance right here, and then you saw it just move right up to the next resistance. So if it can break through this resistance now, it'd probably move up to this one right here. So TIA, just watch that resistance right there. Let me see. I was trying to find. Okay.
Yeah, KAS.
COS. Okay. COS USD / BTC USD. Let me see. COS. Okay. Let's see what this looks like. Okay, so this one I'd say is this is COS USD. This needs to reclaim. Let me draw this out. So it's currently. Let me go to the weekly time frame actually. So currently it's breaking below this area. You'd want to see this reclaim this area at this point. I'd say if not, then there's support down here. So at this point, it's kind of in this range, I'd say. So it needs it did close, I believe. It looks like if you zoom in enough, it closed a weekly below these other body candles. So it's important for it to now close back above, I'd say. Just watch it. If not, it's probably going to come down to this lower range and then see where it goes from there. Which was the other one?
Bonk.
Bonk. Okay. It might just be a bonk. I'll just do bonk USD / BTC USD. Okay.
Man, talk about a range.
Yeah, I would say that's a resistance. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit. It's hard to. I would say it needs to reclaim this area right here, kind of use this as support, and then got rejected. So if it can clear this, it'll probably come up. But the more significant area would be reclaiming this resistance right here, because this was used as support down here in June, got the bounce. But this is against Bitcoin, so if it would need to start with getting above this and then really breaking that resistance next. So we'll see if it can do that. Anything else? Let's see. Metis. I think Metis has been doing pretty well the past few days. Goodness, USD. This probably is
I
going to
see
look good against.
Matthew Verby asked about Sui, but Matt, you can scroll back near the beginning. We covered Sui for quite a bit.
Yeah. Okay, so Metis has gone up against Bitcoin the past. Let me go to the weekly time frame. I would say if it can get through this area, this would be another double bottom right here where it came down, essentially double bottom. And then if it can break this area against Bitcoin, it probably goes up to this next resistance around this level. So just see if it breaks through there, but it is going up the past 2 weeks, it looks like, against Bitcoin. And I know the USD chart has also gone up. UMB, let me see if they have that. I'm not sure if that's.
I don't even know it. What is UMB? Umbrella, that's right.
I'll load it up if we can. Let's see if it has enough price history. We'll do the Gate.io maybe. I wish it showed which one, like the start of the price history off that chart.
It'd be great if they had the date of when the chart was added. That would make it so much better.
Then you don't have to click through all and trying to find the oldest one, or maybe like put a thing where you could do like choose like newest listed first or something, if that makes sense, or oldest. I could actually contact TradingView and maybe suggest that. I have a contact, I think. This chart, I'd say, let me zoom in. This, ideally, I wouldn't, for like me personally, I wouldn't. It's too confusing for me I would say the first, if it can get above this, I'd say this area that it broke below, this would be the area it needs to reclaim. But there's just not enough like history at these levels or anything to really tell. So it's kind of hard for me to look at this chart. Really, the resistance that it would really need to get above is this one back here, but it has to go up pretty significantly. It looks like against this level. I need water.
What about drift?
Let's see. That's what DRIFT.
Yeah.
DRIFT.
And this is an interesting one. Somebody on our team brought to my attention. It's I saw somebody in the chat ask about it. It's kind of like a poly markets style deal that also has a DEX within it, and it's on Coinbase already as well, which is interesting.
This is actually an interesting coin. I might actually have to look at this more. It's gone up a lot. Let me see.
And that's basically the age of it. So it's not that Coinbase listed it late. They kind of got listed.
It's a newer,
kind of,
so it's a newer coin then.
Yeah.
Okay. I would say if you're in it, I would just. I mean, there's just not enough price history, I'd say, but this looks pretty nice. I'd say as long as it holds this level right here against Bitcoin, if it lost it would probably come back down to this lower level down here, but this does look pretty nice overall. I'm definitely gonna look more into that one. What was the other coin?
Well, Seth Shepard said Cosmos and Dot ? I know Aave's been ripping. I'm not really sure. Did they do something? I haven't really paid attention to the news this last week because I was in Singapore. But is it just because DeFi is kind of resurging, or what? Why has Aave just been ripped? Well, let's look at Dot first so we can look at Aave.
All right. Let's see. So Dot actually, this is daily time frame. Let me look on the weekly. Actually, let me go back to the 3-day. So this actually doesn't look bad. So it reclaimed this area. It broke down below. I would say the next thing would be getting a high above this area. But this is a nice little reclaim right here. But you want to see this continue and put in a higher high against Bitcoin on the 3-day time frame at least. And then Aave. Aave has been one I've been covering a lot for like the past, since August, mid-August. It's gone up a lot. But the reason I think it's been going up a lot is because of Trump is launching his token on Aave. So that's probably the main reason, I'd say. But yeah, Aave has been doing well. This is, if it gets through this resistance, then it's probably going to go up a lot higher. But we'll see how it does. It's kind of testing it the last few weeks. So I'd say it just needs to get through this. This is like the next big significant area of resistance. But as you can see, it's been going up against Bitcoin since June. So it's outperforming Bitcoin for about 3 months now. So it's been doing pretty well. Let's see.
Cosmos.
Let's see. Cosmos. Oh, I guess they don't have Cosmos USD. Oh, it's Atom. I guess I could just do this. I'll try OKX. Let's see. Oops. Okay, I didn't like that. Let me try Atom USD on Coinbase and then. Okay. This is similar to that other chart that we looked at before. I would say it's this, like for me, this is, let me go down to the daily time frame.
Yeah,
I would
Andrew
say
Sutherland also said that actually makes sense. He said rate cuts bullish also for Aave, but, which could be something, it is a lending protocol.
Yeah. I'm not sure, because you would think with the rates higher, then there would be more interest
people are going to
in.
be Aave, yeah.
But then again, actually, with the lower rates, more people can borrow you can borrow at lower rates probably. Who knows? I mean, there's perks to both sides, I'd say. This one, it's just been going down against Bitcoin for a while. Really, I would say really, it would need to reclaim this area, which is, I'm not sure like percentage wise because it always just shows zeros when you compare it to Bitcoin. But this would be like, if it reclaimed this area, that would be pretty significant. But it has to do that first. Let's see if there's any other coins. Okay, so Bitcoin still isn't. Oops, that's big. So Bitcoin dominance. I wonder what this is. I would say that it would be interesting if it lost this level. I don't know if this would mean that the Bitcoin dominance is topped, but this was support and resistance back here. It was resistance back here. So it's kind of holding above it, but we'll see what it does when it retests this. If it retests this line right here, if it were to lose this area, then that'd be interesting.
Well, what's his name? Our boy, Drew from Blockchain Basement. I'm going to show this chart real quick. He outlined something that was pretty interesting when he showed it to me, and that is this 231 bar post halving. And if we look at this back here, 231 bars post halving. Look at this breakdown on the dominance. This essentially is alt season. And then again, 231 days post halving. Look at this breakdown, alt season. It's just like, if this plays out again, this is the most like, are we living in a freaking simulation?
Yeah.
We're still
what day would that fall on?
What day was that?
What day would that 231 days fall on?
Roughly about, let's see, December 6th, which would be about a month after the elections.
Yeah, and usually the dominance starts to break down when Bitcoin clears all-time highs for good. So I would say it probably hasn't topped yet. But I would say when it clears that $75,000 level, it's probably going to be closer at that point. So, but as you can see, there's plenty of alts, even with Bitcoin dominance going up. There's plenty of alts that are outperforming Bitcoin right now. So I guess maybe the majority aren't, but we just gave you, there's a bunch that are outperforming Bitcoin. And this occurred even during this period back here last year, from really, let me see, like in October, from October to February or March, even though Bitcoin dominance was going up, as we all know, there was alts popping off left and right. So even if Bitcoin dominance continues up, there's probably going to be plenty of alts that are going to outperform Bitcoin. And you'll see them all over Twitter. And we just discussed some of them, like AVAX, SUI, FET. There's been a lot. But if this ever broke that, now on the flip side though, is if this ever broke down, right? If we saw a breakdown of this Bitcoin dominance, then we're going to see like just insane gains at that point if that were to take place, probably. Because we've seen it already with Bitcoin dominance going up, but with Bitcoin dominance going down, then the alts pretty much, I would think everything across the board is going to just fly at that point.
It's getting to that exciting time, man. It just takes a little bit of patience, coming into the end of summer. You had been outlining this during the summer. I'd been outlining this as well. Other analysts like our friend Kevin Svensson, we look at the summer cycle. What was price action doing last year? May, it was like April through August. Price action basically ranged in basically the same exact way that we're seeing right now. $7,000 range sideways until the sort of the lack of interest of the summer evaporated, and then the price just exploded higher. And we saw the same thing now, and we have the benefit, looking at the technicals, of we also are fighting with getting through previous range all-time highs from last cycle. So not only is the summer the same, we're also dealing with that range struggling at the previous all-time high. So it actually leads to a great question. Matthew Verby says, do you have any profit-taking strategies? I round-tripped last cycle and don't want to do that again. I agree. I want to throw it over to this chart. I shared it on my morning stream here on BitLab. This is from Ali Charts, and this shows the two previous cycles. And just looking at the two previous cycles, it showed that around October, around basically on a time basis, where both cycles topped, this is where we can, I don't want to say expect, but using this as an analog, sometime next summer, maybe we shoot our wad early and it's early in the summer, maybe it's later, but understanding that we have some time for things to really push higher. One of the things I would like to just suggest, if we come down here to Bitcoin and keep it super basic, super duper quadruple basic, and just let me double click on this. Let's go to basic indicators here. I'm going to delete the money flow. Oops, sorry. Yeah, I'm going to delete the money flow. I'm going to delete the stochastics, and I'm going to just look at RSI and the MACD. Okay, look at the price action coming up into this zone. Now, if you got out on this basic signal, which is our MACD crossing bearish here, I'm on a 3-day chart. You would have missed some of this here, but if you would have gotten out somewhere in this region, you would have, even if you got out at the break of this low, because the MACD, let's say it was your leading signal, momentum's rolling over, then you would have gotten out here and gotten back in. You would have gotten back on this signal. You would have gotten back in right here. You would have got back out right about here. And then now if you go to the weekly and keep it very simple, then let me delete this real quick. Boom. Okay. Now MACD crossed over about right in this zone right here with this kerfuffle. And then, it gives you an idea. Post halving, MACD cross, you want to wait. There's a bit of a time basis you can look at. In addition to that, we had bearish divergence coming into this. So if you're looking at the weekly, you have MACD crossing bearish and you had bearish divergence into this move. Great signal to get out. Similarly, you've talked about this a lot, this huge downward momentum here with the lower lows, while MACD has been pushing up through this entire time, and we had bullish divergence. Let's do option T, bullish divergence through this entire range here. Momentum ticking up through this entire range here, while price action at the same time was trending down. That was showing you we're likely coming into the end of this bearish trend. And then what happened? MACD also crossed bullish here. Now, would I have gotten in on the signal? No, I would say, okay, MACD crossed bullish. Let me look for the bullish divergence. That wouldn't have confirmed here. It would have confirmed roughly about right here. So this was a leading signal, MACD crossing bullish. Bullish divergence would have been my next signal. And you could have even waited for this to push up, come down, retest it, and gotten back in. And then that's super simple. There's a lot more, very much more detailed things we can get into, but we cover that on a daily basis here in BitLab. Matthew covers it on his stream and his Patreon. We also have it in the BitLab Academy, but sometimes you just need to keep it simple. And look at this. I didn't even notice this. Weekly chart on Bitcoin. Look at this MACD. It's starting to make that way back towards a really strong bullish cross. We may be in for some fireworks sooner than we think.
Yeah, and like we were discussing earlier about like the time frame you were saying from like March to until now. I cloned this. These boxes are identical size, and look how almost similar it looks. Where I think next week would be this candle right here. So we're basically really it looks almost identical to what we saw last year. This was February till about now. This is March till about October. It's basically the same exact time span. So we definitely, I think, are getting very close, and we'll see if this breaks out of 65K. It's around 64.35 right now. We'll see. We'll see if it happens. And as far as the taking profits out, I would say it depends on what your goals are. But I would say especially once when Bitcoin clears all-time highs, if it does, just start, taking, pieces out, profits out, whether it be 5% or 10%, just start slowly scaling out. You don't have to ever exit completely. you could at some point, but even if like you're like 80% out, you could always still have like 20% in. There's different strategies. It just also depends on your goals, your risk tolerance. There's plenty of factors for everyone in what they want. So, but
All right,
definitely,
so what do you,
obviously, but definitely, just the easiest advice is if you're in profits and you're up, just take some profits out, and then because at some point we don't know when it's going to end, and usually when it starts to come down, it comes down hard, and everyone has experienced it at some point if you're in this market. So yeah, everyone wishes they took out more, and then when we're going up, it feels like you don't have enough in, and then at some point that completely reverses, and then everything changes. So just reward yourself if you're up.
yeah, what are we in this market for if we're not in here trying to make some money, right? Like,
Yeah,
it's not just
yeah,
numbers on a
especially
screen.
especially if you sat through the last 6 months of the downside, the boringness. If we do see an upside again, then definitely just pay yourself, because then you deserved it, because you sat through, and you took on risk when it's a riskier time to buy crypto, especially like in August when everything went down. If you were buying then, and then you're up in profits, you deserved it. So definitely just reward yourself if you're up in profits.
All right, so let's jump back into the day. It's 7:31. Regardless of where you're at in the world, it's 29 minutes to daily close. What are you looking at in terms of the daily close here on Bitcoin and what it may mean for the next? I mean, it's Tuesday now. We tend to get I mean, not all the time, but we tend to get a sort of mood shift in the market first half of the week versus second half of the week. So, what might you be looking at?
I usually just look at the weekly time frame. So for me, like the daily candle closes. I mean, they're sometimes significant, but usually it's just the weekly, and the weekly to me just looks fine. I'm waiting for the weekly close. If we can close above 65K, that's pretty much it at this point. It's get through this area. If we can't, then we'll see. There's support down here at this level. Let me put a horizontal ray. There's support down here if it doesn't break through it on this first attempt. So we'll see if it breaks through it or not. It's really, we just have to wait now. There's nothing, even if it doesn't close below it today, it's not too significant, because it can close above it tomorrow or the following day. But so far it seems like it looks fine.
Where do you put the likelihood of us having this push to the upside? And like I outlined again, I think it's less and less likely, but the likelihood of pushing up and getting that last sort of washout to the downside.
It's hard to like put a number on. In all honesty, I don't like to do like the predictions like that. I would just say I'm just waiting for a reaction to see if it breaks out or not. I would say that if this is a lower high or a higher low right here, it helps the case. It supports the case that we could put in a higher high. But we still have to accept that we are in a downtrend for the last 6 months. So the favorability still actually would favor this not happening, but at some point it probably will happen, if that makes sense. So it could happen today. It could happen within an hour. But I'll wait. I like to react to things. I don't like to make predictions.
Well, hey, man, we're
Especially,
still getting that
yeah.
sort of, I don't want to call it a bullish divergence, but we're still getting a pretty strong, right here. Everybody thought the bull market was over, and we're still getting that push up. We're still breaking the new all-time highs on the S&P 500. Bitcoin's actually still trading down. So risk is kind of coming back in the market. It's not yet hit Bitcoin, but then we come back over to my favorite chart ever. Anybody that's been watching for a while, it's this chart right here, looking at the global liquidity. I don't know if your eyeballs work, but I'll point out to you, this is a higher high. We've basically broken into all-time highs for global liquidity. And the reason why that's important is look at this previous, look how this front ran, this moved to the upside. This was the FTX collapse right here, front ran with global liquidity, and then boom, pump upside. This started pushing up before we had the upside there. back here, price pullback, but look, global liquidity pullback. So is Bitcoin failing, or was risk coming out of markets? And then this started ticking up, and then we got that parabolic uptrend. Same thing back here. Downside, look at that. Downside on Bitcoin. Sometimes people think an asset's failing, and you don't realize there's other, is there fuel in the car or not? That's what I look at as global liquidity. So if they're fueling up the car right now, I'm expecting this thing about to hit the track and start running. So, I mean, I couldn't be more excited right now. The one thing I am really watching, though, is the fact that we're kind of fighting right now this short-term holder cost basis. We are back above it, but I mean, the short-term holder cost basis right now is about 62.3, which actually would be a beautiful area on the price action if we were to come back 62. Let me double click on this. Double click. Let's go to the 12 hour just so we get to see it a bit more clearly. 62.3 would be about right. Let's see, right on the low side of this range that we've been in right here. So testing back into this would still, I mean, this would still be ultimately super bullish on the short term. But look at this, volumes ticking up. I mean, man, I'm so bullish right now.
Yeah, no, especially with the liquidity and money expansion now taking place. That's definitely going to be helpful long term. We saw that in 2020. So, and then we saw the reaction by Bitcoin around this time after. So, it feels like it's all lined up once again to take place.
Yeah, I know for sure. I saw somebody, Gabby, you just asked a question. You said, could you show us how you bought Arrow last week on Coinbase? I think you did it in a different way, possibly through open market. I'm a bit unsure about this. This is a great question because I think a lot of people, this is going to save you money as well. You can buy all the assets on Coinbase. You can buy on essentially their sort of, I don't know how to describe it, beginner's exchange, to where you just buy it. You say you want to buy it, and they go and purchase it. You're not actually entering essentially the trading desk where you're able to enter a market or a limit order. If you go to your Coinbase, mine's not signed in right now, or I'd show you. But when you go to Coinbase, if you go and you turn on advanced mode, then you're able to open up an actual trading desk charting, to where you can pick the market you want to trade, whether it's Bitcoin, Arrow, Render, or whatever it is. And you're able to put in a limit order or a market order, and you actually pay, it costs you less money. If you buy Bitcoin just through, hey, Coinbase, I want to buy Bitcoin, and you tell them how much and they just go and buy it for you, you're paying like a 1 to 3, 1 to 5% premium. You're paying more money for it because essentially you have a broker out there buying it for you. If you actually go in and go to the advanced settings, the advanced exchange, then you can do it. You just have to go in there and select it. Then it will allow you to go and basically create a market around that, which means putting in a limit order or doing a market order if you don't want to do a limit order, and purchase it without having to pay that premium. And you're partners with Coinbase now, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. So I do have a link in my Twitter bio, I believe. Is it there? Actually, it's in my YouTube. But yeah, Coinbase Advance is if you do use Coinbase, I would suggest using Coinbase Advance for the reasons he said. It ends up saving you money. There is more of a premium if you pay for on the normal Coinbase. And really, to buy something on Coinbase Advance, it's just a market order. It's the equivalent of buying something on normal Coinbase, except it's just less fees and whatnot. So I would suggest that.
Yeah. So we're at 7:40. Everybody, you guys are all in here. We got 1,480 something people between Twitter and YouTube. Shout out to everybody that is here. If you guys have any questions, take advantage of us while we're here. If you have any things you want to look at, any pairs, how the fuck do you do X, Y, and Z? Hey, man, we're here for you. We obviously both have paid communities, but we want to give you all as much as possible when you guys tune in. And we're here to answer your questions and look at stuff, not just the stuff we want to look at.
Yeah, let's see if anyone has questions.
I'm sorry for my slightly janky setup. I don't have my cable for my camera, so that's why I'm looking back and forth. Arrow says average crypto Joe. And by the way, Arrow, for y'all out there, maybe you don't care about DEXs or not, realize the context of every asset you're buying. Arrow was purchased on the open market from Coinbase Ventures. They're basically investment fund for their business. Back in February or March, they bought $100 million worth of Arrow. And now we're starting to see why. We're starting to see the sort of foundation that they were setting before they were building into what they're doing now. They just announced, I think it was last week, maybe the week before, that now they have wrapped Coinbase on Base. Sorry, wrapped Bitcoin on Base.
Bitcoin.
And in order to utilize that, in order to trade it, in order to participate with those wrapped Bitcoin, basically in a DeFi layer, you have to. It's all transacted through Aerodrome. So whether or not you think the DEX is going to be valuable or not, the fact that we're seeing all these institutions now participate in Bitcoin spot ETFs and BlackRock, Fidelity, and most of the top ETFs have their Bitcoin custodied through Coinbase, you can also start to expect that as things move forward, that there's a high likelihood that if there's any DeFi utilization from any of these institutions or corporations or big money moving forward, wrapped Bitcoin is going to be one of the major players there if they start using Bitcoin as DeFi, which what we're seeing huge amount of advancements on stacks and a bit layer and OrdiSwap and runes and all this. And a lot of people feel like those projects might have died. No, the whole market pulled back. And this is something that as we move forward, I do think that DeFi will likely be a pretty big part. Bitcoin DeFi will likely be a pretty big part of participation with these institutions as they get deeper into crypto. And wrapped Bitcoin is going to be a big factor in that. So Aerodrome is going to be one of the biggest beneficiaries of that if it happens.
Yeah, it's done pretty well too. I think we looked at that chart last time, I believe. Aerodrome.
Yeah, pull it up.
Let me see. Arrow.
And by the way, Gabby said, got it. So is it better to make a limit order or market order? I'll let you all know. Here's a quick little alpha fact. A limit order essentially allows you to create liquidity at a price point that you want in the order book. So you're adding to the order books. And because you're doing that, meaning say you want to buy something at $1.01. Maybe the price is at 98 cents. Maybe it's above or below. It depends on if you're longing or shorting, buying or selling. But you're putting liquidity in the order book. And because of that, you're adding to the liquidity of the exchange. And you typically pay either no fee or a significantly reduced fee on that trade. If you do a market order, then all you're doing is you're saying, I want to buy right now. And it looks at any available orders that are in the order book and fulfills your order as quick as possible. So you're essentially taking money, you're taking liquidity out of the order book for that asset pair that you're buying. And therefore, because you're doing that, you also tend to have to pay a noticeably larger fee than you would if you're doing a limit order because you're taking liquidity out of the order book. Now, they're both great. And it just depends on what you're trying to do and if you're willing to pay the fee or not, if you're willing to be patient. And also, for instance, if the market's moving, you're trying to get in and out really quickly. Market orders are obviously better. But that also is a good indication that maybe you're acting emotionally. If you're not able to set a limit order and let it hit, that's a great signal for you about how and why you're making that move in the chart.
Yeah, that's a good explanation of it. And then limit orders too. When you set a limit order, your buy will go in. Like, let's say you wanted to buy a token at $20, right? You'd place the order and then you'd wait for it to fill at $20. But if you do a market order, depending on what's in the order books, that buy could be at $20, $21, $22 potentially because it's looking just to fill based on what's in the order books. If there's a lot of sell orders on the other side at that $20 price, it might fill at $20. But if there's not a lot of sell orders at that price, it might have to go up to the next price, $20.50, $21, $22. It just depends.
Right.
But
And
it's
I
also
get messages all the time. They say, hey, I put it in order at 20. Why was my average entry $23? If there's a smaller market cap or there's very low liquidity, let's say you're trading at 3 a.m. or a Sunday or something where there's not, and it's a smaller market cap, then the $20 price you're seeing on the exchange is the last traded price. But if you look in the order book, there might be not many orders in that area. It's called a spread. And so the price will move to fulfill everything in the order book to the amount that you're trying to purchase. So it's not an error. It's an error in sort of lack of strategy if you're finding that happen to you regularly.
But on the flip side, though, with a limit order, there's always a chance you place that limit order to buy something at $20, right? But it doesn't fill, and then the token goes up to $21, $22, $23, $24, and then you end up having to cancel that limit order and then buying at a higher price or just not buying at all. So there's negatives and benefits to both sides. But let's say if you're buying something like Bitcoin on a limit order, it's going to probably get filled almost immediately because there's so many like buys and sell orders going on. But the lower or the smaller the coin, the less likely it is to fill on a limit order. So if we look at Arrow, I had this marked up since the last time we looked at this, which had to have been below. It had to have been over at least a week ago. The last time we did a stream is probably. Well, we did do that once when you were in Singapore. I don't think we looked at Arrow.
No, but yeah, when we did it, it was probably about a week and a half, almost 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, so it was at least down here. So it's gone up almost 50% probably since the last time we looked at it. I had marked these resistances, cleared both these resistances, cleared this resistance now. This looks like it probably wants to push up to this $1.07 next, and then after that is around $1.29. So this chart looks pretty good. I could look at it against Bitcoin as well. Let me see. Let's see what this looks like. So Arrow, Bitcoin, this looks really good as well. I'll go to the weekly time frame. I would say if this weekly candle closes like this, that's a good sign. Really good sign. This chart could fly actually, just because this looks like a double bottom. This was resistance here, support. Yeah, if it breaks this, then this chart looks really well. So might have to keep it. I've been watching it, but definitely, even if something has gone up a lot, like it's gone up 50%, but when you look at the Bitcoin chart, it looks like this. It probably wants even more if it can close a weekly above this. So I'd wait for that weekly candle. Let me see.
While everybody's tuned in, I just want to remind you all, I'm reposting this in the live chat here on YouTube. If you're on Twitter, if you go over to @Academy BitLab, there's a tweet there that says live now, retweet for a chance to, I'll show you exactly what I'm looking at. This tweet right here. If you retweet this, boom, you get entered for a chance to win. We give away goodies every week. Just showing love for supporting. Sometimes it's money, sometimes it's free membership, sometimes it's merchandise, sometimes it's cold storage wallets, all kind of different stuff. I just wanted to remind you all, get that free stuff, baby.
Yep. It looks like the daily candle close is going to be coming in soon. We'll see if Bitcoin can push up. Let me see. Any other questions? If not, I think you could probably wrap this up. I'd say we didn't get that push yet, so maybe tomorrow perhaps we end up seeing the push past 65K. We looked at Ondo earlier. If you go earlier in the video, to the person asking about Ondo, we did actually look at that earlier in the video. I think within the first half hour, I believe we looked at that.
Well, Matthew Verby said, what are your thoughts on Plan B's post saying Bitcoin $1 million by July to December 2025? He lists out points and dates. I think, yes, I think it's a little bit of engagement farming. Do I think it's possible? Sure, it's possible. I think it's unlikely. I think $1 million Bitcoin will likely be earliest next cycle, but more likely than that, two cycles out. There's a lot of capital that needs to come in and quite a bit of substantial sort of regulatory green lighting for that to happen. And remember, we have institutions involved now. Institutions are not going to let this run away until they're fully stacked. They have the liquidity and the ability to move this market. We say, oh, crypto market, $2.2 trillion. Bitcoin's at what, 1.5, 1.4, something like that. That's a baby market. They can move the price of gold however they want, which is an $11 trillion market. They have no problem doing whatever they want to control the price of Bitcoin, especially with institutions over the counter, uh, spot ETFs. We just saw a little bit of movement today with BlackRock trying to basically get Coinbase to do 12-hour settlements versus 1 day. I'm not really sure how that's going to impact price other than faster speed of transaction for some of those settlements and reporting. But what's surprising to me is that they're not being super, actually is surprising. They're not being super transparent about some of that on-chain settlement that's happening. And also there was somebody challenged them on the wrapped Bitcoin uh, on base and how, if there's going to be any sort of transparency as to keeping track of all that. And they kind of said, you just have to trust us, which is kind of surprising. But 1 million Bitcoin will be here. I don't think it's happening this cycle, but if it does, hey, I'm here for it. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, it's cool, but it's I'd rather just take it week by week and go from there and see what happens. I think trying to predict a price like that is just it's hard. Hard to say. So there was a lot of predictions last cycle. A lot of people had made, and it didn't work out. We don't really see too many predictions as much anymore, probably because of that. But I don't know. I think just taking it week by week, and more or less, I'd say at some point over the next year, Bitcoin will probably top. So it's more about a timing thing, I think, for me than a price target. So
Yeah, I agree with that.
yeah,
But everybody that's tuned in, thank you all for being here.
yeah,
Seth and Andy D, BTC Newbie, Gabby, Mr. Ding Ding, Mr. Ding Ding Mo, I guess, Bob, Crypto Pollo One, Matthew Verby. I mean, I can't say everybody's name. Alexander G, always in the house. David Sargent, Average Crypto Joe. Everybody that's tuned in, we love you. We appreciate you. Matthew, thank you for poking me, getting me on
yeah.
air. We're going to be doing this a lot more often. But is there anything else you want to wrap out with? I don't think
No,
we're going
that's
to get
pretty much it.
65 by the end of the day.
Yeah, maybe if we get 60K tomorrow, we'll come back on, but or the following day, whenever it breaks out, I think we'll try to do a stream. But we'll see.
Yeah,
It
for
could
sure,
happen in the
man.
middle of the night though, so you know.
Yeah, if it's middle of the night, then we'll follow it up the
Yeah,
next day.
the next day. Yep. All right. Take it
Well, I
easy,
love you.
Kelly. And
Everybody hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you're following Matthew Highland at Matthew Highland _. As you can see right there, just switch screens so you can see it
okay.
at Matthew Highland _. He's got a great YouTube and Patreon and private community as well as public here. So we love you guys. That's all we got. I'm not going to do a long wrap out. Adios.
Peace.
Adios.